Did you know that 54% of Americans read below the 6th grade level? I'm not just talking about kids either, because I know that the recent discourse has been focused on Gen Alpha and them not being able to spell restaurant. I'm talking about full-grown adults. According to a study done by the U.S. Department of Education, roughly half of the U.S. adults aged 16 to 74 years old, 130 million people, or 54%, lack literacy proficiency. There's a myriad of reasons why people are behind in their education and their literary proficiency. These reasons can range from their socioeconomic situations, people just have different learning styles, neurodiversity. The education system in America is extremely broken. And then there's the hottest and loudest culprit of them all at the moment, which is digital distractions. And I know Gen Alpha has been the star of the discourse when it comes to literary proficiency at the moment, with conversations online describing just how awful they are. They can't read, they're belligerent, they're making teachers quit in droves.
I need to ask millennials, why are your kids so awful? And more importantly, why do you think it's so funny? Your kids cannot read, they cannot write, they are ill-mannered, and they're monsters.
There's also this one Reddit post which details how kids in 7th or 8th grade can't read a simple word like movie or excited. And it's not just 1 or 2 kids, it's like 50% of the class.
We all know that the world is behind, globally, because of the pandemic and stuff. But I don't understand why they're not stressing to y'all how bad it is. I'm not even trying to be funny, but these kids are... I'ma just say this. I teach 7th grade, they are still performing on the 4th grade level.
On one hand, this generational infighting is nothing new, right? There's always been this discourse of, back in my day, we used to walk 500 miles to get to the nearest school. And kids these days don't blah, 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 blah. Boomers complained about Gen X and Millennials. Gen X and Millennials then did that to Gen Z, and then Gen Z to Gen Alpha.
Your outfit is so cute today. It's such a sleigh. You still say sleigh? You're a grandma. You're a grandma. Spell restaurant.
However, on the other hand, I am a little concerned about what I'm seeing online. We can all joke about how Gen Z can't spell the word restaurant, right? But are we really going to be laughing in 20 years when these are the people who are running for office, making our laws, teaching the next generation? Hi, Catlin here, and in today's video, I want to talk about the literacy crisis that is sweeping the nation, the rise of misinformation online, and how AI plays a part in all of it. Because of the nature of the topic at hand, there is going to be a focus on the younger generation, teenagers, and what is the word for someone who's below a teen?
A child. No.
So what's the big deal, right? I mean, I hope I don't have to explain why being able to read is important, but in case I do. Literacy is critical to children's personal and social development, helping them learn language and communication skills and fostering empathy and creativity. The earliest years of a student's schooling set the stage for a student's future success. Kids who lack adequate reading skills by the end of 4th grade are 4 times less likely to earn a high school diploma. Our ability to read, and by extension, our reading comprehension, is directly related to our ability to critically think. And since information and misinformation is so readily available at our fingertips now, I think it's imperative now more than ever to be able to discern what is truth and what isn't, and be more critical of the content that we are consuming online. But with apps like TikTok, where you're just constantly scrolling and being inundated with a barrage of information and people yelling at you to try the latest green drink that was developed by this fitness influencer who's read one textbook about nutrition and dietetics. But no, you could totally take her word for it, because here, look at this other influencer who was paid to talk about this green juice. Obviously, both of these influencers have their credentials, so of course we're not gonna say anything about it, right? When talking about TikTok, one article writes, the platform doesn't allow for live links, making it difficult for creators to cite their sources and for users to quickly verify information. It's not like TikTok wants you to leave. The infinite scroll encourages more time spent on the app, leaving little opportunities for users to fact check what they're watching. Instead, users internalize misinformation and keep scrolling. This is a huge problem because who your source is matters so much. A recipe for the greatest meatloaf of all time, or gamote, if you will, is going to go a lot differently if it was written by Chef Gordon Ramsay or freaking Hannibal Lecter. This issue is compounded by the fact that there is a steadily increasing distrust of media. At the same time, people are forming parasocial relationships with creators, making people more willing to trust user-generated content than standards-based content. I talked a little bit about parasocial relationships in my last video, but to sort of harp on it again, because we have such a fierce loyalty and connections to the creators that we follow, there is an inherent trust in the relationship. Whatever they say, we obviously take as gospel because there's no way that they'd be willing to lie to us, right? I mean, Janice would never try to sell me on a prebiotic soda that's currently undergoing an active lawsuit for false marketing, right?
You guys know how much I love my healthy soda, especially without all the crap in it. So today we're gonna taste test some poppies. These are my 5 favorite flavors. I just have never ranked them.
Class action lawsuit, someone taking the soda company Poppy to court. The soda markets itself as a drink that promotes good gut health. But a woman who filed this lawsuit claims that Poppy doesn't contain enough prebiotic to have any health benefit.
Oops. According to a recent study done by Stanford, they found that the younger generation, teens specifically, were especially at risk to fall prey to misinformation that they see online. One example of the test they did was they showed a group of students the Slate magazine's homepage website, which includes news articles as well as ads. Many news organizations use native advertisements on their websites. What native advertisements are they are ads that are meant to look like articles. And the students were tasked with trying to discern which items on the homepage were ads and which were actual news articles. Quote, more than 80% of the students believe that the native advertisement, identified by the words sponsored content, was a real news story. Some students even mentioned that it was sponsored content, but still believed that it was a news article. I think because the younger generation has basically grown up holding a phone in their hands, basically out of the womb, we assume they are savvy when it comes to social media because they have grown up with it practically all of their lives. But we mustn't forget that these tech and ad companies have also grown up with the younger generation. And if there's one thing that these companies are good at, it's collecting data and feeding you things that they think you want to see. So while yes, this generation can probably send a text to their best friend about the latest cronut flavor while simultaneously doing a TikTok live and also posting a photo dump on Instagram, they can't seem to notice when someone is trying to sell them something. Because like in actuality, little Timmy doesn't know the difference between native advertisements and news articles, even though the word sponsored content is directly on the ad itself. I mean, forget the fact that native advertisements were literally engineered and designed with the sole purpose of trying to trick you into thinking that you're reading regular content or news articles instead of a company trying to sell you something. Sorry, Timmy. Better luck next time. What a dumbass, right? Okay, so these kids can't tell the difference between a news article and an ad. Like, so what, right? It's not really that simple. It's not just about advertising. It's about reading comprehension. It's about seeing the word sponsored content and thinking, oh, this is paid by someone. Someone is trying to sell me something. It's media literacy. It's the ability to look for context clues and piece together a thought. And this ability doesn't seem to be there. You know, how many times have you been scrolling through TikTok and you see someone show you a product? They told you where they bought it. They told you what shade it is. They told you the manufacturer, the brand. And you go into the comments. First comment, oh my God, where did you buy this? Or maybe you see a clip from the movie and you see the words Chicago Med literally on the screen. The first tag in the captions, Chicago Med. Go to the comments. Oh my God, what movie? Where can I watch this? And I don't think this is like a matter of laziness because it literally takes less time to look in the captions instead of going to the comments and typing out, hey, where did you get this? Hey, what movie is this? I think this is just a byproduct of living in the age of the internet where all the information that you could ever want to know throughout time is literally at your fingertip. There's just an information overload. And also there just seems to be a lack of resourcefulness to go out and do the work for yourself.
One thing I've learned since being on social media and becoming a content creator that scares me is just how unresourceful people can be. Stick with it. Like, I can make a video right now saying, hey guys, I love this amazing lip gloss I got from Fenty Beauty in the shade Hot Chocolate at Sephora for $21. I'll put all the information also below in the caption. And y'all will still comment on the video saying, what shade is that in? What brand is that? Where'd you get that from? How much was it?
We just want people to tell us what we want to know, and we want them to tell us now. And even when we tell them, they still don't know. So there's like this perfect storm, right? With the rise of distrust in mainstream media, parasocial relationships, and the connection and trust that comes with that. And then also the short form content itself. People want their information quick. They want it now. They want it delivered to them by their favorite creators because they know that they can trust them, so that they don't have to do any of the work themselves. They can blindly follow and do no research on their own. They can just absorb without 1 ounce of critical thinking. And critical thinking, reading comprehension, and literacy, it's a muscle that you have to train. It doesn't just happen overnight. And if it's something that you don't train, it atrophies like any other muscle. And in the age where misinformation runs rampant and everyone has an agenda and everyone is trying to sell you something, being able to read between the lines is so important. But let's not pretend that the older generation is also not susceptible. Why can't I say that word? Susceptible to misinformation. I mean, if you were on Facebook like a couple months ago, you saw AI Jesus photos out the wazoo. And these photos would get hundreds of thousands of likes. And you go to the comments and they'd be like, amen, God is good. Oh my God, this is amazing. You know, and like, look, Facebook is the Wild West right now. I'm not sure what they mean when they just type amen. Like, do they actually believe this AI Jesus photo is real? Because if they do, this makes me very concerned. Just because with how fast technology is advancing and the speed at which it's advancing, it really is only going to become more difficult to be able to suss out fact from fiction. And I understand that as you get older, it becomes a lot more difficult to try to keep up with these trends because you kind of feel like you've already done all the work and absorbed all the knowledge that you've needed in order to succeed in life. And now you just want to rest and enjoy your golden years, right? But it seems like the world is only getting more and more advanced and at a pace that's impossible to keep up with. Not just for the older generation, but for everyone. Like, I had to look up what skibbity meant the other day, and honestly, I feel like I was just better off not knowing in the first place. But it kind of seems like if you're not committed to being a lifelong learner, you'll be left behind. Research shows that young people are increasingly turning to TikTok instead of Google to search for information. In September 2022, a similar analysis by NewsGuard found that for a sampling of TikTok searches on prominent news topics, almost 20% of the video results contain misinformation. I don't think there's ever a time where it's been more important to be able to discern what is real and what is fake on the internet. With information now spreading faster than it ever has before, it can become extremely dangerous or even life-threatening. You can think of your Auntie Janice, who currently blowing up the family group chat because she got a hold of an infographic that looks like it was literally made in a 1960s microwave, warning of the dangers of 5G cell towers. And now she's sharing it to her 25 other WhatsApp group chats. And now just imagine 5 people from those 25 group chats are sharing it to 25 other group chats. It doesn't take a lot of cycles before that infographic has now reached over 3 million people. Like, it travels that fast. And you're like, okay, yeah, sure, 5G cell towers, harmless, right? Back in the height of the pandemic, a lot of Fauci disbelievers were spreading misinformation about COVID and mask wearing and safety protocols and the vaccine. Think about how many lives were affected because of that. In fact, the spread of misinformation got so bad during the pandemic that the World Health Organization had to release a statement saying that 5G does not, in fact, spread COVID. And they even made it in an infographic so that your Auntie Janice could easily share it in her group chats. Isn't that nice of them? Like, I literally cannot stress how important it is to be able to rifle through this stuff, you know, and think critically about the content that you're consuming, that we're consuming. Sorry, I am also a part of this. There's been a meme and a piece of discourse that's been cycling around for a while now about why the curtains are blue. Stay with me. I swear it'll make sense in a second. For those who don't know what I mean by the curtains are blue, the piece of text will say that the curtains are blue, right? And your English teacher will interpret that to mean the curtains represent his immense depression and his lack of will to carry on. Whereas the author was just saying that, hey, the curtains are literally just blue. There's no deeper meaning. But the point of this assignment and why your teacher is asking you to explain why the curtains are blue is so that you could sort of exercise your critical thinking. There is not just one reason why the curtains could be blue. There could be multiple reasons why the curtains are blue. The point of the assignment is to look for context clues in order to effectively build an argument and defend your stance. The point is to look beyond just the surface. And in everyday life, it's not just going to be like, why are the curtains blue? It's going to be about seeing an infographic about gun laws and noticing that it was sponsored by the NRA. It's going to be seeing an influencer talk about the miracles of the juice cleanse she's on and seeing that it's sponsored by Jamba Juice. It's about seeing a study outlining the dangers of 5G cell towers, claiming that it was done at Harvard, but the entire article is in Comic Sans. You know, context clues, people. And there have been great strides in the battle against misinformation with sites like factcheck.org or Snopes, but the literal sheer amount of information that's coming out every day by people who are just trying to sell you something or trying to make a buck it's literally a tsunami, dude. Like, you can't keep up. The responsibility ultimately falls on us, the consumers, to be able to recognize when someone is just trying to sell us something. Like, if some guy is telling you to drink aged urine and to rub it all over your face because it'll get rid of parasites and boost your gut biome or whatever.
This is aged urine. This is about 6 months. It's got that nice brown tint to it. Oof. Gnarly. Smells like ammonia. The research that I've shown is it's good for parasites, it's good for your gut microbiome. So of course we can drink a little bit and see what happens. But the way I like to use it ultimately is topically. So you put a little bit in your hand there, and then you just rub it on your skin.
You should probably be like, I should check to see if this is real or not. 136,000 likes. That's insane. Or maybe it's someone who's claiming that he's living the ancestral way and only eats raw liver because this is how our ancestors lived and that's how he got this jacked body. But if that lifestyle is too hard for you, then don't worry. Buy his supplements and it'll be the exact same thing. Oh, but oops, come to find out that he's also taking anabolic steroids.
And I'm here now to set the record straight. Yes, I've done steroids, and yes, I'm on steroids, monitored and managed by a trained hormone clinician.
Was that part of the ancestral way? I didn't realize there were steroids in the caves, Liver King. So with the way that the social media landscape has evolved, with its parasocial capitalistic nature now, coupled with our declining attention spans, and everyone wanting information and results quick, now, easy, it's become so much more difficult for us to be able to effectively use our brains. Which brings me to the next point. Artificial intelligence is a hot ticket discussion nowadays, especially when it comes to AI art and how it's using the work of real artists to train their models while not giving these artists a single cent. That is just objectively bad. That's awful. Artists should be compensated for their work because they've worked extremely hard to hone their craft and they should be paid for it. There's so many different avenues that you can tackle the conversation of AI from, but in my video, I will mainly be talking about it from an education and misinformation perspective. Drew Gooden did an excellent video about AI where he goes into the other aspects of AI. Great watch, highly recommend. OpenAI released ChatGPT in November of 2022. And literally days later, Los Angeles Unified School District had banned it from all of their networks. By January, school districts across America and also Australia had followed suit. Jenna Lyle, a spokeswoman for the New York City Department of Education, told the Washington Post, while the tool may be able to provide quick and easy answers to questions, it does not build critical thinking and problem-solving skills, which are essential for academic and lifelong success. There's no denying that under the current system of education and schooling, these chatbots can literally do our homework for us. I write most of my scripts and do my research within Notion, where their AI technology is literally integrated right onto the page. In fact, it's the first thing that's recommended to you. Google Docs and Gmail is now also starting to incorporate AI right onto its canvas. You literally can't escape it. It's everywhere. Oh, your history teacher is asking you to write a report about the first person to ever milk a cow. Done. 5 seconds. Vox did a great video on this topic. I highly recommend watching it. But the gist of it is that teachers are still in the midst of trying to figure out how to incorporate AI into their schooling, whether they should incorporate it at all. And there seems to firmly be two camps. One that is against it and one that is for it. The educators who want to outright ban any type of chatbot cite their worries about how these chatbots are going to affect learning and retention amongst their students. Forbes conducted a survey asking teachers why they were either pro-AI or anti-AI. And among the dissenters, plagiarism was a top concern when it comes to AI. And, like if ChatGPT had released while I was in school, 100% I would be using it. Given the option between doing my homework and not doing my homework, I'm going to choose to not do my homework 100% of the time. I think people are kind of belittling this by saying, oh, there's a lot of AI detection software out there. Like, you can definitely 100% tell if a student had just asked ChatGPT to write an essay for them, right? Wrong.
After ChatGPT came out, a bunch of tools popped up saying that they could detect AI writing. But if you look at OpenAI's educator FAQ, they say detectors don't work. So which is it? Well, they work sometimes. That's the era we're living in. We have technologies that make guesses. Some detectors may be biased against non-native English speakers, so be careful there. And you'll want to check if the tool you're using is transparent about how often it's wrong. I couldn't find error rates for these detectors, so who knows if they're really testing the product.
So what about the camp of educators that want to embrace AI? From that same Forbes survey, when asked how AI influenced the teaching and learning process in the classroom, 55% of the people said that it improved educational outcomes. I genuinely think that artificial intelligence can revolutionize learning if used correctly. I don't think it's a hot take to say that the current education system in America, anyways, sucks ass. It's very results focused, standardized testing, and there is this philosophy that there is just one way or a couple of good ways to learn something and to teach something, which is so not true because there are such diverse learning styles. People's brains literally process information differently. And learning is just so personal, right? If you ask little Timmy, who has raging ADHD, to sit down and read the first 4 chapters of a textbook about the science behind paint drying, like he's probably not going to retain any of that. But if you ask little Robert, who is on the spectrum and is hyper fixated on paint, to go sit down and read the textbook, like he's probably going to memorize every single word. Like, people just learn differently and people have different interests. And it does seem like some companies and teachers have already made great strides towards incorporating AI. Educational technology leaders such as Carnegie Learning and Newton already offer adaptive learning platforms which use AI to customize learning activities and content in real time. And according to an article by Will Douglas Heaven, wow, what a last name. Teachers are finding opportunities in the misinformation and bias that large language models often produce. These shortcomings can kick off productive discussions. Teachers are asking students to use ChatGPT to generate text on a topic and then getting them to point out the flaws. In one example that a colleague of Stanbury's shared at her workshop, students used the bot to generate an essay about the history of the printing press. When its US-centric response included no information about the origins of print in Europe or China, the teacher used that as a starting point for a conversation about bias. And that's another thing about these chatbots, AI, large language models, is that it's just pulling information off of the internet, right? It's not discriminatory about if the information is false or true. If it's on the internet, it will pull it for you. And I think this is an excellent way to incorporate AI into learning, especially in the current landscape where misinformation is running amok. It's a great way for students to exercise their critical thinking abilities, their reading comprehension, their media literacy. I think this is a great idea. In the age where information is literally at our fingertips, why are we still having teachers be the arbitrators and the gatekeepers of teaching that information, right? Like, students can literally find that anytime, anywhere. I think instead it's great if we have teachers be educators who show students how to identify the misinformation that they see. So in conclusion, I think be careful who you listen to online, especially if they're asking you to drink literal piss. I didn't think I'd have to say that in 2024, but the education system is so broken. And I think we're kind of at a crossroads with AI right now. And for sure, it's super scary because the issue of retention and cheating, plagiarism is all there, and they're all super valid. But I think we can take advantage of the system and not abuse it, right? Because I think it could genuinely revolutionize learning and fill in those learning gaps where there are currently disparities. for those who are not as privileged from a socioeconomic perspective, as well as a neurodiversity perspective, right? I don't think we should be scared to use it, and I don't think we should teach our children to be scared to use it. I think all that does is create a generation of technologically illiterate people. Okay, that's it for me. If you enjoyed me yapping for the past half an hour or so, please leave a like on the video, subscribe if you wanna, and of course, if you had any thoughts, please leave them in the comments below. Would love to hear it. Okay, bye!